Hello and welcome to the Salmon Steelhead podcast. I am here with the CEO of Lamiglas Fishing Rods, Tom Posey. And Tom, can you tell me a little bit about what you do as CEO of Lamiglas?
Run the company. It's a 70-year-old company. It's been around forever. We make a lot of great fishing rods, specifically for certain fisheries around the United States. Salmon and steelhead is big for us. And coordinate the activities of our salespeople, our marketing people, our administrative staff, our team members, our ambassadors, kind of all of the above, and set the course for the business plan that we all agree on as a team and push that forward.
So Tom, we are in an interesting time here in Washington State and the world as a whole during what will be a historic moment in the world, the coronavirus shutdown, and in the case of Washington State specifically, a statewide fishing closure. And so as a fishing rod manufacturer and someone who interacts with fishermen and fisherwomen daily, what are your general overarching thoughts on the fishing closure?
I certainly understand what the governor has proposed and implemented for the state, because the state of Washington is a hot spot and you do need to control it. The only thing that I would want to talk about is maybe modifying that a little bit so you could go out on your own and fish. Just something more in the middle. I think it's really hard to shut something down because it has such a dramatic effect downriver. When I say that, I mean in other businesses, whether it's it's hospitality or takeout restaurants or the fishing and hunting stores that we have and all those types of things. And I think that the social distancing is the key, the theme. And if there was a way to work that in and kind of talk that through, I think that would be great. But again, I think we all certainly understand the concern.
Yes, and some of the ideas or reasons rather that I've heard brought forth is some of the ancillary activities that come with it, such as stopping at gas stations, grocery stores, areas to stock up, and then also the fact that fishing will generally bring movement of anglers from one part of the state to another part of the state, or even across state lines.
At the end of the day, our fisheries are massively challenged in the Northwest, and you and I are going to talk about the trip I made to Washington, D.C. here right before the outbreak, and some of the things that we're all working on. But, at the end of the day, everybody needs to catch a fish, and that's a whole nother subject because we're talking about, a situation of a pandemic here, and there's certain things that have to be done. But it'd be nice, again, for a common sense approach. And a lot of the things you said were appropriate, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And in light of that, it's certainly a time of stress, and a lot of people are experiencing some cabin fever. Interestingly enough, I believe Washington is the only state at this point with a statewide closure of fishing, and many other states have actually encouraged fishing and outdoor recreation areas, of course, with common sense, and some have even waived license fees for fishing during this time. And one of the concerns with Washington State is the monitoring of ESA-listed, Endangered Species Act-listed fish such as salmon and steelhead. That monitoring those from a legal level becomes impossible or near impossible. So one possible solution there would be you could perhaps close salmon and steelhead, much as I don't want to see that happen. You could close salmon and steelhead and then just enforce, or rather encourage, local fishing only. And like you said, pack a lunch. And
catch and release,
whatever it needs to be.
Yeah. People just want to get out.
Yes.
And you don't want to injure your industry if you can at all avoid it, right?
Absolutely. And one of the contrasting things about this is that hiking, walking your dog, other activities are still allowed and even encouraged. So although we would never want to think selfishly, just as anglers ourselves, it does seem a little bit like it's being singled out specifically during this time.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that in some ways, and given that the hatcheries don't produce what they've produced, and it just kind of feels like we're targeted sometimes, the hunting and fishing community. I don't know if it's true or not, it just feels that way.
With that in mind, let's talk a little bit about before all of these closures and the outbreak. What did you go to Washington, D.C. to address?
Well, Lamiglas has been a member of ASA for over 60 years, and that's where they're based, and they're basically an advocate for fishing and the fishing industry. So we've got, folks down there that are in touch with Capitol Hill, and they invited myself and Tim Schooner of Maximaline, and we flew out there and visited several senators, Jeff Merkel and Ron Wyden, Susan Bonamici, excuse me, hopefully I'm pronouncing everybody's name properly, and to meet with them and just talk about the state of affairs for the Northwest. I mean, everybody that lives in the Northwest is really, we're here to salmon fish. I mean, there's so many people that we're kind of known for our salmon, and it's been challenged massively the last 15 years for sure. And so that's what we were talking about. And mainly it was talking about, is there anything we can do on diversion of dams? And that's not tearing down dams, that might be diverting the water around a dam, depending what it produces for power and if it makes sense. We also talked about sea lions. I mean, we had a sea lion in the parking lot over in Kalama. They're eating a lot of fish, and it's really taken a toll. They're so aggressive now, they're in these small streams, and it's just crazy. And bird predation, which affects your hatchery output and things like that. So for me, not really digging way deep, I just could say that, we really talked about, dam diversion, sea lions, bird predation, and getting the hatcheries fired up. Because again, it's really about the next generation, the legacy of this sport and what is so dear to our hearts. But I will tell you that I felt like from the Senator Ron Wyden and Mr. Merkel that they really want to try to help and do something. I think it's a struggle for people to kind of figure it out, but it's a real complicated matter, but I think we can get somewhere. I'm not a politician, so, but I really enjoyed being there, and I think we did some good.
With what you're addressing, you're not talking some extreme measures or anything. They are, in a sense, compromises, such as in the case of the dam diversion, things like that kind of serve the interests of both industry, fishing. Obviously, in politics, there are a lot of compromises that need to be made, but something that kind of moved the needle towards a better future for this. We can only do what we can do now. But what was your general feeling of the interest in what the Columbia River, specifically in Washington, Idaho, and Oregon, what was your feeling about the level of participation and interest in what we're doing here?
I think it's massive, and I think the senators and the congressmen want to do something, and it seems like everybody's kind of looking at different things, whether it's bird predation, the sea lion issue, or studying the dams. If there was a way to get everybody together and focused, I think that'd help a lot, but I really think they're trying to get this solved, and they've made a few steps. It's just not enough. I just kind of think sea lions shouldn't be allowed in the fresh water, keep them out in the ocean. I mean, that'd be a great way to start, but how do you get there,
Yeah, and it's been a long running battle. We have seen one instance where there is finally, at Willamette Falls, they have actually, instead of just trapping and removing them for the sea lions to come back in 1 or 2 days, they have actually euthanized specific sea lions that have been seen killing sturgeon, salmon, and steelhead. And in 1 year, the wild steelhead run at Willamette Falls, it had already doubled as of a month or so.
It went from,
ago.
what was it, 600 to 3,200 or something.
Yeah, quickly.
Something crazy, within 2 years.
And it does not take more than one trip out on the Columbia River, one fishing trip during spring Chinook season or pretty much any season to see massive destruction of salmon, steelhead, and even sturgeon. Every single person on the Columbia River who is out there fishing in a hog line or trolling has seen sea lions destroying fish while they're sitting there struggling for a bite. And they are putting thousands upon thousands into the economy, into boats, into bait, into hotels, fishing rods, of course, and all of these different things. Well, the sea lions have completely taken over. So it looks like we're making some progress. Do you think that the sea lions themselves are being recognized for what they are, or is there still a massive pushback due to the marine mammal protection.
Well, there's been some changes in that act now. I believe that certain Native Americans have the ability now to remove sea lions. I think there's some new initiatives to continue to remove them at a very, limited basis, I guess you'd say, hoping that it's learned behavior and maybe the other ones will follow suit. So that's kind of where it is now. How do you really kind of get it cleaned up? Because I just think they need to be out of this fresh water in order to get these the fish runs back. I'm not sure how close we are to that or not. And with the amount of organizations out there, whether it's CCA, NSIA, Northwest Steelheaders, and all the rest, it's another case of, maybe a little more focused by those groups would be a thing. If we could just get this resolved, then everybody can kind of go do what they need to do. But this is an issue that everybody needs to team up on and get it done. And I'm not saying that people aren't, but I think it needs more focus. I think it's a fair statement. And like I've said, Tim and I will continue to travel out to Washington with ASA, and ASA's got a rep now for the West Coast, and Danielle is very good. She can get these meetings. She's an influencer. That's what it's all about, is what's your influence and what's your access. Some of the other groups that maybe we don't agree with, that are more native oriented, are much more organized than a lot of our groups. They're very, very serious, and that's probably another thing we need to do, is probably step up our game a little bit, just to get caught up. It's unfortunate, but that's the game that we're playing right now.
Now, there are many issues that seem to be divisive, but there are also a lot that almost every group can find agreement in.
Mm-hmm.
And in a perfect world where we had a massive run of salmon and no dams and everything was just like it was in the 1800s, the sea lions, even if they were in freshwater, wouldn't be an issue. But we are in a different situation where the sea lions have been able to thrive and the fish runs have not, and they have all sorts of barriers to upstream movement that are trapping them. So perhaps there are some issues, such as sea lions and to a lesser extent certain dam removals. Of course, some dams are absolutely necessary for flood control in certain areas, but maybe there are issues that we can all agree on and move forward on more so.
Yeah.
So you yourself, as a fishing rod manufacturer, you've seen the up and down in the world. Your father, Dick Posey, ran Lamiglas since what year?
It was 1965 to 2015, January 2015, to the age of 87. So a long time.
And very, very involved in the fishing industry.
Yes.
And so what do you think are some of the primary challenges if we go outside maybe the specific sea lion issues and things of that sort to the fishing world and retail stores and such?
Well, obviously it has an effect when you shut down fishing to the economy. We talked about that the down leg effect, the economic effect. It's just not one thing. It's all those great stores out there that we all work with. And as we discussed, if there was a way to mitigate this, that would at least keep all these businesses in play. That's all we're trying to do through this. Be smart, keep it in play, practice social distancing and the rest, and move forward.
So in the salmon and steelhead world, Lamiglas, of course, has had a steady foothold in that for years and is quite the innovator. The history is pretty amazing to look into.
Yep.
But beyond that, Lamiglas has also been absolutely massive in the Northeast for striper fishing. And it's interesting for salmon and steelhead anglers to look over there and see what's going on over there. It's a whole different world as far as the fishing rods that they use. What have you seen there as far as their challenges? Is it a different situation? Is everything booming? How does the Northeast look?
Well, the Northeast is strong. There's a lot of striped bass, but they're worried about maintaining their fishery. There are some overuses, maybe some of the the commercial, not to say commercial, but party boats, if you will, and maybe taking some of the bigger fish that they'd like to release and things like that. So they've got their challenges as well, but they've had a pretty strong fishery over there for a number of years, and they're doing a lot there to keep that fishery going. So there's similar challenges. a little bit different, but similar, yeah.
So Lamiglas has certainly got a nice diversity of fishing rods. What are some of the things that you guys are branching out into, let's say in 2020?
Well, just to let you know, we're really strong, like you said, in the salmon and steelhead market. So we run from basically Northern California through the Northwest, over to the Great Lakes, and up to New York to the Salmon River. That's the majority of the salmon fishing in the U.S., and we're a player in all those markets, as well as British Columbia and Alaska. We've got a great offering for Alaska. And so our other market, our legacy market is the surf market, surf casting market, inshore. And we're also now have several new initiatives for Florida, where we'll get involved in some offshore, inshore down there, and start to tie the Northeast to the Florida Southeast market as well. So we're pretty excited about that, as well as other markets in the U.S. But I just kind of identified our core markets: the West Coast, Northwest, through the Great Lakes, up through New York, and the Northeast for striped bass and other species, inshore and surf casting and offshore fishing, and then we'll roll that down into the Southeast, into Florida as well.
Yes, and those markets and the fishing rod models have a lot of history. One thing that I've noticed about Lamiglas is, if you look at it from an outsider, perhaps like an overarching business perspective, Lamiglas takes risks, I would say, and this is a good thing, in my opinion, in terms of trying fishing rod models, trying different series that may not immediately, to the outside perspective, have like a built-in market right away. Whereas you're kind of creating markets, and I've seen a lot of other manufacturers will perhaps want to follow suit more to an existing market or an existing style of rod that works. Why do you think that is, that Lamiglas continues to, I guess innovate is a good word for it, but also just being willing to mess around in the rod design room?
I think it's in the DNA. We really spend a lot of time on research and development for different markets. If you look at where we've come in the center pin market, for instance, here in the last 3 years, 3 or 4 years, it's been tremendous. With our Redline series as an entry-level series, a very affordable, moving right up to the closer, which is identified now as maybe the top center pin rod in North America, in the Great Lakes and other areas. And center pinning is taking off, like you said. It's an emerging market. We're seeing a lot more done in the Northwest than we ever have. And Roger Hinchcliffe is leading that initiative, and he's world-renowned in center pin fishing. And so I guess it's kind of part of who we are, and we really work hard at getting it right in these fisheries, because nothing goes to the market unless it's been tested true through our team members inside the building first, all our team members, and get that feedback and get it done. It's a lot of work, and we don't like to let anything go out of the building unless it's right. And we got all these great people that fish this stuff, and they won't let it get out of the building. So it takes a lot of work to do that. It really does.
For sure. So what are some of the things that you've done inside the factory since you've been here with Lamiglas to kind of bring the rods to the next level?
Well, a lot of reinvestment in the manufacturing process, whether it's new equipment, state of the art in the blank plant, clean rooms, improved clean rooms in the finishing piece, making sure we stay up to date on our materials and our components, and any type of other materials needed to make it the best that it can be. As you know, our signature line, our high-end rods are the U.S. series, and then we have price point rods to help people get into our rods, but they all have the same, DNA, if you will, all the way down from start to finish. And we utilize the good, better, best model, and they're all tested the same way. So we work pretty hard around here. Everybody does.
What would you say are some of the biggest challenges in the fishing rod, or maybe the fishing manufacturing world as a whole?
Super competitive, very competitive. There's a lot of great companies out there. We're blessed. Lamiglas is blessed. We're a brand. People know that when they buy our product, they're going to get what they pay for, and we're going to stand behind it. But we're competing every day, and it keeps you on your toes. You know, we've been around 70 years, but you got to work every day for every week and every month and every year. There's nothing guaranteed. You got to keep working hard.
You've done well in other industries, such as the real estate world. What do you think of the fishing world?
Well, when I first, you know, I've been involved with the company for many, many years on special projects, but when I got the call to come in and run this company, I thought it'd be a lot more fun. It's a lot of work. I don't think I've worked harder. Seriously, I really don't. And that's not to say that I didn't work super hard in the real estate. I really did. But this is more of a different dynamic. It's any time you're married to a retail environment, it definitely increases the the intensity. It really does.
One thing that it kind of seems to me would be a difference is that perhaps in the real estate world, you're more focused in on certain decisions, certain initiatives, and it seems like here at Lamiglas, you've kind of just got to make rapid fire decisions for all these different areas of the business.
Yeah.
It's not just one thing all the time. You're
Right.
running many different parts of that.
Yeah, you have to make good quality decisions quickly because that's what people want out of a manager. They want to be able to come in and address a concern or what the issue or problem is, and you've got to be able to give them a solution quickly, and then you got to make sure that that solution encompasses the company or whatever it's going to impact. That's the real trick to this whole thing. There's nothing simple about some of these decisions because they can reach all the way through the factory. You got to be very careful.
Oh yeah.
You got to be very careful.
Have you always made perfect decisions?
No, I haven't. But I feel like I'm getting a lot better.
Absolutely.
For sure.
No, it's been really cool to see Lamiglas as a company evolve. There's always been quality and excellent design in Lamiglas, but it's kind of evolved into this new world of business and marketing, and of course the online world.
Well, it's just changed. I mean, I've been here a little over 5 years, and when I walked in the door, online was just a baby, even though it's been, Amazon's been at it for quite some time, but I think it really hit the retro rockets, back in 2014. And, we got involved with our e-commerce partners, and that's when the whole content thing took off, whether it's narrative, filming, whatever medium you're talking about, it's now all in, and you have to be a part of all of it. And if you aren't, you're going to be left behind. So we're very involved. We kind of believe we're a technology company in many ways, and that's the way we're directing ourselves. Obviously, we're a fishing rod company, but you have to be a technology company. You have to think digital in this world. You really do.
And with the e-commerce in mind, would you say that there is still in the fishing rod, could you describe the retail presence still for the fishing rod world?
Well, I think that the retailers bring the expertise to their clientele, and what I've seen, the successful companies have really garnered their followers, their customers to their e-commerce. They provide the knowledge and the direction and the guidance and the consulting to get them to that right purchase, whatever that is. And then hopefully what they want to see happen is that transfers to their online presence. And so you want to contain your client base into your retailer, whichever one it is, right?
So now a lot of people would say that they would want to hold a fishing rod before they purchase it. So do a large percentage of them buy online, or what would you say that is?
I think there's a lot of online purchasing. I think there is obviously people, maybe they go into stores, maybe they check it out, but I think that there's a lot of buying that's done based on content. I'm a little older, right, Lucas, and you're young and you know this, and you're kind of that generation. It seems to me that we're seeing a percentage of folks that don't mind doing the research and making the purchase. But I think it is a shake and wiggle thing, but that e-commerce is growing at a market rate in the fishing industry like the other ones, and it's about 30% plus minus online sales year over year for most companies, depending on where they are.
I've fished just about every series there is, and they're phenomenal, even in what I would call a price point model. Although, of course, Lamiglas doesn't go to the bottom of the barrel, you know,
Right.
just trash rods or anything, but there is still price point rods.
And we continue to improve rods with new guides, new handles, new things, and a lot of times it's probably not our best move, but we don't always increase the price.
Yeah.
It's very hard to increase pricing, but we feel obligated to continue to improve if we see something that needs to be improved, and we'll do it. And we pay for it. So maybe if my dad was still here, he wouldn't think that was such a good idea. But oh well.
Well, it's the right thing for the customer.
It is.
And the right thing.
For Lamiglas,
the-
that's what they've always done.
Yeah.
They've always delivered a quality project for a good price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, I really appreciate speaking with you today. So for our listeners, where would you recommend perhaps people to go take a look at either learning about the rods or maybe seeing some in person? Or
We're in most every retailer in the Northwest that carries fishing and hunting equipment. We're there. And if you need to do additional research, go on to lamiglas.com. We've got content, we've got information, we've got pictures, we've got YouTube, we got videos, we got it all. So that's another resource that'll help you go to the store and buy.
Also at salmontroutsteelheader.com, there's a couple specific product reviews to a couple specific models, and I just want to give a shout out right now to my current favorite model, which is the G1000 Pro, the GP10 MHC. You can also get it in the MHS spinning. That rod for me has just been awesome throwing spoons with, drift fishing, doing some float fishing with it. And then Nick Amato, he got 4 of the spinning rod models for his drift boat, and I got to fish those with him. Dragon bait behind bobbers, they worked phenomenal. Nick loves them because they're just so multi-purpose. You can get a bigger fish in, but it can still fish little steelhead gear. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that's great, but for me, I really think more people ought to know about that 10-footer. It's a 10 to 15 two-piece. I love it. You know, I think it's that if you're a Northwest guy and you want one rod to chase coho, chinook, and steelhead, that's one of those rods that'll do it. 10 foot, 10 to 15. That's my favorite. But
Well, and Lamiglas really appreciates our partnership with Salmon Trout Steelheader. It's been a great relationship for, I don't know, 40 years, forever.
Yep.
And, you know, it's a great magazine. The Great Lakes Angler is another great magazine that we participate in as well, that covers the Great Lakes and great information on some of the rods that we have. And I don't know, I'm just excited about Salmon Trout Steelheader and Great Lakes Angler. And thank you so much for all the work that you guys do for the industry.
It's an exciting time, and I'd have to say we are thankful for all the listeners and readers and how many people are subscribing. It's been crazy to see all the support, people subscribing during a time when they have to stay home, maybe not fish as much or learn. And you know what's kind of funny, just as a side note, is how many subscribers we have to Salmon Trout Steelheader in parts of the country that don't even have salmon trout and steelhead. And I think that's because people move out of the state and they still want to read about it. This obsession is real with
Yeah, it
salmon
is.
trout steelhead. So
It is.
it's funny to see. But
Hey, we're going to come through this. We're going to get better fishing on the other side. This is going to be great. I think that this economy is going to boom and America is going to come out of this thing. And we are. We're going to win.
absolutely. Until then, we will we'll hunker down and keep doing
Yes,
what we do.
That's right.
Well, thanks again, Tom. Have a wonderful day, and thank you all for listening. Please subscribe. Please comment below. Go ahead, check out lamiglas.com, and we will see you guys next time.